this idea was floated shockingly, because I know members of the council know this, that somehow Waterstone backed out of paying for the Parkway. That's not true at all. In fact, I'd like Mr. Jake Wise to step to the podium, who is our civil engineer. And I know members of the panel know a lot of this, but just to dispel this notion that somehow my client is welched on a financial obligation is anything but true.
Thank you. Jake Wise, business address is 2651 West O'Galley Boulevard in Melbourne. What Mr. Bird is saying is completely accurate. I was hired by, at the time, the Capanos family, who owned both sides of I-95, where the interchange is almost centered on today, and by the Cypress Bay development, which is immediately adjacent to Waterstone. I was hired by them with their private funds to design the Parkway. It was designed from all the way from the Setilly Canal, east of I-95, all the way to Babcock Street, and they paid for that with the absolute anticipation that they were going to construct the road. That's why I was hired by the private land developers. Emerald Lakes was then went under contract by Zons, who spoke earlier. Zons took over our contract with the full anticipation of paying us to design and permit the roadway and for them to construct it. During that time, there was more meetings than I could remember with FDOT, with coordination all the way through, because of the requirements of the federal and state funding for the interchange for the development of this area, and to make sure that both projects were moving forward together. DOT wanted to make sure that the city and the land developers and all of their funding were moving forward all together at the same time. The city, in a meeting one day, much to not only my surprise but my client's surprise, offered to take over the roadway project, offered to pay for it. They actually hired me to finish the project for the city. So at that time, the roadway was designed, and the city took over my contract for permitting purposes only. We're already so far along that the roadway was already designed and in for permitting. So the notion that they backed out of something that they had agreed to pay for with respect to the Parkway is not the history of what happened. This project moved forward with the city taking it over. It was fully permitted, and it was coordinated through at that time, the assistant city manager, the office, and with Public Works and Growth Management. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them. I also saw an estimate that was up here about millions and millions of dollars in different roadway alignments. We reviewed those as well. We actually met with the city staff and talked about that in great detail on more than one occasion. I can say that estimate is extremely one-sided. It took into account not only the Parkway itself for the southern alignment, but other roadways connecting to it that typically would be paid for by development, just like for this project. Mariloma, which circles around through here, which has this portion already constructed with some of the residents you heard from earlier today, is being completely paid for by private development dollars, as well as this portion of the Parkway here with the proposal you have before you tonight. So that estimate included roads that typically would be paid for with private development dollars and not public. It also included all kinds of haul roads, bridges. It didn't take into account any kind of protection with the canal, which, if you go with the northern alignment, would need guardrails or berms. They would need much, much bigger culverts and for roadway connections to the north to cross that canal than it would with a southerly route. So just with our general information of the area, reviewing how they looked at it, the way we looked at it, the actual costs of the two roadways are very similar. There's not much difference at all which route you go. West of Waterstone, over here, you've got Rolling Meadows and Mr. Sartori's property. There's still a ton of flexibility with the Parkway west of our project site for Waterstone. So some of their specific concerns are easily resolvable through the other properties because they are large properties that still have flexibility if they want to change their PUDs. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Council has any question for Jake?
Yeah. What was the time frame whenever the obligation for the road changed hands?
Let's see. Mr. Paluzzi committed to $1 million check back then. Do you remember? I don't remember exactly.
Was it more than 2 years ago?
It was well over a year ago, approximately that time frame.
I think it's around 2015.
Yeah, 2015 sounds right.
But since 2014. And who were you working with in that meeting? I'm trying to figure out the time frame. So it was with this, since my term on council, that's when that changed, correct?
Correct.
And then which manager were you dealing with at that time?
Mr. Link was the city manager, and ironically, Mr. Buchanan was the one that brought the idea to us during a meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. If you could.
I will. Now, Mr. Mayor, let me follow through on a couple of other things. Number one, I heard the number $9 million or more for this road. I think our client has offered and has demonstrated it could have built it for $6 million. That proposal was not accepted.